Hey everybody, Happy New Year. Today I've got an awesome figure to take a look at, and that is Infinitybox 15 Patagona from the AMTS series, and within the AMTS line it is code 12, making it the 12th vehicle of the AMTS line. Patagona is also the final release of the Rescue Team, and in case you don't know, AMTS vehicles always come in pairs and combine to form a large robot. So for land, sea, air, space, racing, and of course now the Rescue Team. So today we're going to take a good look at Patagona. We're going to start with getting it out of the package, of course. We'll do a close-up of this figure's details. I'll do a transformation demo, and we'll wrap it up with a box grade and some final thoughts. So let's get right into this. So first thing we want to do, we're going to take a walk around the box here. And again, like I said, this is AMTS code 12, IB-15 Patagona, and it's a multi-purpose rescue aircraft. It's a tilt rotor helicopter. So on the side here, we're showing the conventional vehicle to box mode and vice versa. On the back, we got more details about the figure and its combiner modes. The main combiner mode is Hercules, and there's a secondary mode where Patagona sits on top, and I guess that one's called Hyperion. So we've got a lot of details about what comes in the box. All the different things that come with it. It is a very modular vehicle, and this is an exploded view of all the different parts that can be pulled apart. And they're even showing a combiner vehicle mode. That's something that AMTS vehicles have historically been able to do. For transformation difficulty, we're calling it a 4, I guess. That was the same as Toxotes. I really thought that one was fairly easy. I personally viewed that one as a 3-star rating transformation demo. We'll see with Patagona. Haven't taken it out of the box, of course, so I'm just about going to be transforming this thing for the demo in real time. It's designed by Andrew Leung, of course. He's designed the past few AMTS vehicle sets. This guy's a great designer. If you know his name, you know it's always good. And interestingly, for the product name, we're calling it Beastbox AMTS Patagona. So I believe 52 Toys is partially rebranding their diverse line of machine cubes as under the Beastbox umbrella. So Infinitybox, Megabox, and if they're still even doing Fantasybox, those are all apparently going to be part of the larger group of Beastbox figures. So more details around the side of the box here. Yeah, you got Patagona from a top view. Very cool looking vehicle design. Yeah, the past couple of AMTS sets, both of these were of course designed by Andrew Leung. He also did the jet fighter team that came out before this set. But prior to that, the deep sea exploration set was designed by somebody else. I'm not exactly sure who that would have been, but I believe the jet fighter set was the first one he was tasked with designing. So basically, yeah, he's done 4 AMTS vehicle sets. As far as AMTS vehicles go, he's the guy. And he should be, because he's freaking awesome at this stuff. But without any further delay here, we're going to go ahead and get this guy out of the box with Mr. Trusty Red Devil here, and we'll get this review going. Box does come with this cool backer insert, and I'm going to go ahead and leave that sitting out for the rest of this review. Got some nice topographical detail on here. It's a pretty cool looking piece. Before we get Patagona out of the package, I'll just point out it comes with instructions. You got a bonus set of character cards here, and of course you got some catalog stuff. So in the box, we got a box charger. We've got the figure itself. Man, is that thing slick. Very much looking forward to checking out all the details on this thing. And taped to the bottom side, we have a bunch of little extras here. That's an interesting little piece. I'm not sure what this thing is. That looks like something. Yeah, that's like a large port adapter. Not exactly sure what that is, but maybe I'll get some hints on what this thing is out of the instructions. I don't know. But yeah, basically typical for AMTS vehicles, it has these adapter pieces, so you can combine, 3mm, 5mm ports, a lot of variety of ports, maybe 2 to 3mm, whatever the sizes are. These are handy to have for the modular functionality of AMTS vehicles. And new to the AMTS set is this particular wedge-shaped piece. It's essentially a sort of a spudger. And of course, you have the minifigure Hexanoid pilot. Also new with this set is it has a 2-tone color scheme. Very cool design. It's got that teal color matching the vehicle. Got a little red accent there on the chest. Silver helmet faceplate. Overall, pretty cool looking little figure. So let's take a look at Patagona here. So yeah, it looks like the first thing we're going to want to do straight out of the box is unfurl its tilt rotor blades. And it looks like, yeah, you basically just follow the contours logically, and they'll fold right out. I gotta point out the joints on these helicopter blades are actually fairly stiff. You would maybe be concerned that these might be a little bit loose or floppy, but I'm finding that that's not the case at all. As is the case with most things related to Beastbox or 52 Toys machine cubes, the quality of the engineering and just kind of the manufacturing in general just keeps improving from year to year. So first impression here, one thing I'll point out right away is I have seen some complaints online that maybe the tilt rotor blades don't pivot forward and collide with the side of the vehicle, and I'm finding that that's not really the case. So no, it's not a problem at all. Really what it comes down to is if you have it hitting, maybe you just need to tilt this section up slightly to get it up and out of the way. No, it'll tilt forward like a regular tilt rotor helicopter, and they'll spin freely. One thing I was curious about that I didn't know for sure is whether or not this figure has landing gear. And I'm not seeing it on the bottom side. I could be missing it. Could be something that's buried into the instructions or something like that, but it doesn't appear to have landing gear. Both of the jet fighters do actually have little tiny landing gear struts. Yeah, let's get into this vehicle. As far as the tilt rotor helicopter blades, yeah, you can basically just straighten them out, tilt it up like that, and then straighten out the wing. Then you've got its hover mode. No landing gear per se, but it sits pretty naturally on its belly. Yeah, both of those blades spin pretty darn freely. It's a beautifully designed aircraft. I've said it many times before, I'll say it again, Andrew Lewing designed some really cool shit. This is such an awesome looking piece. I mean, I've been waiting to get this thing since the prototype was first revealed. At least at first appearance, does not appear to disappoint at all. I mean, wow. So of course the color scheme for this vehicle is teal, white, and black, and at least in the case of Patagona, it has these painted on beautiful silver accents on the belly here, kind of on the fuselage or whatever. And it's a great color scheme for rescue vehicles. You got a lot of painted on graphic details that look really cool. You got emergency on here, a bunch of the requisite caution graphics, of course. Yeah, some interesting little graphics here. You got that sort of plus sign looking thing. You got the rescue team badge here. Some of these graphics are so tiny I can't even read them, but I think that says avoid turbo space. You got the AMTS Rescue Team badge here, and on the opposite side we have code 12. That is of course Patagona. So something else I'll mention real quick is this figure, again like with Toxotes, pretty much cost me $50. When you tack on state taxes, 52 Toys is now charging for shipping, and the figure itself has gone up quite a bit price-wise compared to previous AMTS vehicles. Now the first time we saw a price jump was with the Lunar Exploration set. Previously AMTS series had been shipped as 2-packs, and it was like 2 vehicles basically in a single box going for about $50. Then they started splitting them up, starting with the Lunar Exploration set. That one cost $35 a figure, and this set is, I think it's somewhere between $40 and $44. But basically when you tack on the shipping and the state tax charges, which I'm sure AliExpress is legally required to do, you're basically looking at $50 a figure. Essentially, for these two, this entire set cost me $100. I mean, they're very well designed and built figures, but for the deuce, I think we're at a point where you're probably only going to want to get this if you really want it and you're willing to splurge the money on it. So, dealer's choice, I guess. Very cool vehicle set. I'm very happy to have these. It's just at a point where the pricing is really kind of getting to be outrageous. And to be totally frank about it, we have a dipshit criminal president to thank for all of that. So, don't know that prices are ever going to come down on toys. I mean, this is an industry-wide issue. It's not just with 52 Toys or AliExpress or whatever, but there's got to be some relief on that at some point. Anyway, back to business. We do have this novel sort of reverse opening cockpit here. Pretty cool. And your little Hexanoid pilot will fit in here just like so. So I think we probably need to tuck his knees in here. Yeah, there we go. I think if we get him in a reclined sitting position, he'll probably fit in there pretty easy. There you go, just like that. And you get your little pilot in there. And I do like this. This is kind of a nice touch. They have this sort of frosted plastic on here, so it's not totally clear, but you could definitely see your little pilot in there. It's very cool. Nice. And of course, to show these off side by side real quick, this pairs up very nicely with Toxotes. And a very cool AMTS set. There again, like I said, I'm kind of miffed that this set cost $100, but damn, are they cool. You know what? And I'll be totally frank. I have the money for it and I was able to splurge on it. So I'm totally happy with it. Just not happy that it's costing me a lot more money than it used to even a year ago. Let's touch on some stuff again real quick here. Something interesting about Toxotes is it seems like this one is very much a spiritual successor to Acteon from the Lunar Vehicle set. That was essentially the rover and kind of the platform for its counterpart Endymion, whereas Patagona really is a spiritual successor to the jet fighter series and pretty much the racing team set, I would say. So it's got that sleek sort of modern aerodynamic look. It is such a cool looking vehicle though. I mean, my God, this thing is awesome. And in the tradition of AMTS vehicles, they do name their vehicles off of real world influences. So in some cases it's Greek mythology, like with Acteon and Endymion. In the case of the racing team, they named them directly off of animals that are known to run fast, cheetah and gazelle, of course. dinosaurs. And in this case, they did also name them after animals. For Patagona, that's essentially a large hummingbird, and I believe that's an Asian hummingbird. I don't think you find that anywhere else in the world. Could be wrong about that, but we'll see. And, you know, a vehicle that would hover in midair makes perfect sense that it'd be named after a hummingbird. And another thing you'll see with this particular vehicle is it has a ton of access holes and stuff in here. So you can customize this vehicle in many, many different ways. I mean, they're all over this vehicle. It's a lot of 3mm ports, but I am seeing some 5mm. So we got this one right here on the bottom, 5mm on top here. Not exactly sure what you'd use this for, but they're definitely going to provide some utility one way or the other. And speaking of which, yeah, that 3mm peg will plug directly into, I can't remember what this stand is called. It's a Bandai, you know, Act something, whatever. But it's about in the center mass of the vehicle. Something else I'll point out here. This was a critique I had of the Lunar Exploration Shuttle Endymion, is the port you would use to attach it to a stand is way up in the front, at the front of the mast. So you were basically stuck with having that vehicle tilted way up and forward at an awkward angle, just so that you could display that thing, you know, kind of raised up in the air or whatever. And that is absolutely not the case with this vehicle at all. So that particular critique, they absolutely corrected. That's something really good that I'm seeing with this rescue team. A lot of the critiques that I had about the past releases, specifically with the Lunar Exploration and the racing team, they've corrected for this particular figure set. Cockpits have easy access. The wheels roll smoothly. You know, there again, like with this, you can attach it very easily to a display stand and get it at a bunch of different angles. It doesn't have to be tilted way up or whatever. So yeah, definitely with this set, you know, I don't know if it's just me or other people in general, but I do feel like that they're kind of listening to their customers and essentially improving their product along the way and still coming up with really cool design. And another critique I had with the racing team was the transformations were a little bit awkward, especially with Gazelle. That's one of the hardest ones to transform in the entire line. Something else to note with this particular figure is there are a lot of access panels that are kind of hidden on here that are part of its other transformation modes. I'm not going to get into these in a great way, so yeah, you've got that opening fuselage hatch there. That's pretty cool. And a lot of them are hidden throughout the figure, so obviously, you know, not just for its transformation into cube mode, but also for the other modes, like I said. And when I do a third video for this set, I'm going to explore, obviously, the combiner mode for the robot mode Hercules. Maybe I'll do Hyperion too, I don't know. But I'm also going to take a look at a lot of the other codes and that kind of thing, and just show what this thing really can do. Still need to do that for the racing team set. There's supposed to be a third and final lap of that series. Just absolutely have not been able to get to that one over this past year. Hopefully I'll be able to do that this year. Hopefully sooner than later, but I can't really promise anything at this point. Just been super busy with work and life. But having said that, I'm going to do a transformation demo. Now, of course, with this video, I just took this thing straight out of the box, have not transformed it at all. So essentially what I'm going to offer to you today is a sort of real-time first impression of how to transform this thing. Obviously, I'm going to be using the instructions to make sure I get this thing right. The transformation that I'm going to do step by step is going to be taken straight out of that. All right, so first thing I want to point out straight out of the gate is per the instructions here, I was wrong. It does actually have landing gear. They're in there really tight though, so you may end up having to separate the back half to get these to come out. So yeah, they're again in there really tight. It's going to take a little bit of fiddling to get these out, but I've got a tiny little implement here and we'll just pop them out carefully. Very cool. So I feel like with this particular figure, it seems like they pretty much thought of everything. Any critique that I could have come up with, nope, they got that covered. Yeah, the only thing I would point out, and there again, I could be missing something here, but this is what I'm seeing right here, is that the landing gear doesn't quite seem to line up from front to back. So it might be a deal where you really don't want these to be down so that you can get it. Yeah, that seems about right. So you got these struts on the side here. I guess if we fold up the ones in the back, then it can kind of rest on its belly. So you essentially have the look of a landing gear. Just there again, I could be missing something, but it doesn't look like it lines up on the front and the back there horizontally. That's something that you gotta love about AMTS vehicles. There's always these neat little surprises in them. They're super modular. They built in that component so that it can emulate a real-life aircraft, essentially. So I love that. So there again, yes, moving on to the transformation demo. We're going to rotate the cockpit 180 degrees. So it'll come down and around just like that. And that is absolutely an Andrew Lung design cue. That's almost like his signature move. There's a few other pieces that he does this specific thing where the cockpit or the neck of the figure will twist around 180 degrees down like that. So you got that 90-degree angle. These stabilizer fins will rotate down into place. And essentially it's supposed to lock into that groove right there. So do that on the opposite side, down and around, snaps into place. And for the next step, we're going to break apart the entire fuselage. That'll just come out like that. Then the center frame section will fold up and over, and it's going to tab in right here. Snaps into place just like so. We'll come back around to the back side here. Now on the back side here, we're just going to take this piece and rotate that up and around like so. There again, you got a peg and post connection, so that's going to snap into place here. Same on the other side. Just going to rotate that up and over and around. That'll fold into place like so. Just want to make sure those are secure in place here. And from there, these pieces are going to rotate over and around. And it's basically going to be flush with this wedge-shaped piece here. Stabilizer fins on the back. And you got about that shape. And then from here, they're telling you to rotate from this hinge. You're going to take the tilt rotor blades and fold them down just like so. Do the same on the opposite side, just like that. So you got about that shape going on right now. Then we're going to take these stabilizer fins and we're going to rotate them around like so. They got a tab and notch connection there. That'll just fold up and connect in there like that. So now you got a flat panel here. Now we're going to rotate all of the helicopter blades so that they're all facing in the same orientation. And the way they describe it in the instructions is you're essentially going to want to have them facing forward. Obviously, they're not going to sit in that position, but that'll come together as part of the transformation process. So all of those blades into a parallel forward position. Then we're going to rotate these blades from this articulated arm around, and essentially they're going to be facing in this position, and then we'll rotate that arm up like so. So you've effectively got them in this position. We'll bring that arm around, and from here we'll have these blades turned inward, and we'll tilt that up. So you've got that going on there. And in case you knock something loose, like I did with this stabilizer fin, just make sure you put it back in place. It's got a lot of moving parts, so that kind of thing is going to tend to happen with a figure like this. You just want to be mindful of how pieces need to connect, and if they do happen to come separated, just make sure you put them back in place as you're going. So yeah, that's about where we're at right now. So just to step aside for a second, something that is common for BeastBox instructions is you want to be mindful of these little hints that they give you where they tell you here's something to focus on essentially. So for this particular step, I just want to point out they're showing to rotate this piece up from this particular hinge. So where my mind goes is I think I would want to rotate them from this hinge, but that's not accurate. There again, if you pay attention to what the instructions are telling you, they tell you to rotate from here. We're going to rotate from that hinge. Yeah, there we go. And you feel that snap as it kind of comes out of its little resting spot there. So we're going to rotate that up. And from here, then you want to fold from that hinge and get these kind of tilted into essentially this orientation. So we got about that going on right now. Now we're coming back around to the back side. And from this hinge right here, we're going to rotate these pieces up and around 180 degrees, about like that. So you've got these flat spots here. Up and over, just like so, up to the point where it looks like it's connecting or touching the other part of that fuselage there. So I'm just making some minor adjustments here just to make sure I got the alignment correct. Feels like it wants to naturally go geometrically in this position, so that seems good to me. So from here, that's about what we're looking at. So from this section of the air intake, it says to rotate it around 180 degrees, and I think what you're essentially doing is inverting the fuselage here. So you got about that shape going on here. But then the next step shows that you need to rotate this whole piece around and forward. And just because of the way these pieces are hitting up against each other on both sides of the body, I think you want to do them one at a time between the two steps. And then from this hinge, we're going to fold that up and forward. And essentially what you're looking to do is get that tab to connect into that groove right there. So I think the trick is you need to get this hinge lined up properly on both sides here. There we go. So it's a little bit of an effort to get it to connect to that tab on the other side of the fuselage, but basically, yeah, you're going to wind up with a kind of a wedge shape here up against this, so it's not going to be flat up against that. So yeah, at least as far as I could tell, what you're looking for, once you get that piece transformed, is to have this stabilizer fin sort of flush with the front side of the fuselage here. And then you're going to want to have, if you were facing this in a horizontal position, you're going to have this flat wedge piece here, basically flat horizontally. It's a little bit of a trick, some kind of an odd angles here. So there again, we'll repeat it on the other side. I do recommend doing those two steps. In the instructions, they're listed as step 17 and 18. I'd recommend doing at least those two steps one at a time, just to make sure you have enough clearance to be able to do all of that. So there again, we're going to rotate this piece around. They describe it as 180 degrees. We're going to get this lined up here on the fuselage. Then from this hinge, we're going to rotate that around 180 degrees, or at least it's folding up and over and around. And the goal is to get this tab to lock into that little notch right there. I'll just say this up front. This double joint here, at least on my copy, is really stubborn. So it's proven to be a little bit of a fight just to get this piece to fold up and over. So you heard that snap on there. I don't think I broke anything, but it took some serious force just to get this piece to double over. For whatever reason on this side, it was stuck. So that's something just to be aware of when you're transforming this thing. You may have the same issue. And there again, I don't think I broke anything, but that particular snap that you just heard, that was me applying pressure where I may not have wanted to. Or at least that wasn't the ideal outcome. And just to be clear, I'm trying to do this as delicately as I can, but I can definitely see where the pieces need to move. And at least in the case of this particular part, it seems like there's no other option other than to apply pressure where it doesn't seem like I should be. Yeah, this part is straight up fight me, and I don't know why. There's that additional snap. That was getting it locked into this position. Yeah, there's just something janky about this joint that isn't quite allowing it to collapse up and around itself. Haven't gotten there. I can go ahead and tab this up here. I think this is about the position you want things to go in. Obviously, we're going to have these pieces rotated inward. They don't have anything to latch onto that I can see. Throughout the transformation, that's something you will probably find as these helicopter blades are going to flop around a little bit. I think everything looks correct. We're going to find out real soon here. From here, we're going to rotate these pieces up and over 45 degrees. From this hinge. If you need to, you might need to hang on to the air intake to get that to rotate up and over. Do the same on the other side. And I think what you're going for is to have these fuselage panels flat up against each other and essentially have these wedge-shaped pieces totally horizontal with the top of the figure there. Make any adjustments as needed if anything kind of falls out of place. Now from this joint right here, we're going to rotate these pieces up and over. About like so. About like that, so that you get these stabilizer fins essentially lined up with the top of this wedge piece here. Do the same on the opposite side, so we'll rotate that up and over. Now from here, we're going to rotate from this black panel, form a clean side. That'll line up with the inside of the fuselage right here. Just naturally wants to fit inside that contour. There's also a peg and post connection here, so we can snap that into place. Yep, there we go. Same on the opposite side, so we'll get that lined up there. Peg and post connection, push that right in there. Now it's starting to look like something. So again, these rotor blades, there are tabs on the bottom here, so you can actually push those into those tabs and they lock in securely, so that's kind of nice. We'll do the same on the opposite side here, just kind of push them in. So we've got about this shape going on here. Now from here, we're going to rotate these entire side sections around 180 degrees, and that's just going to line up with the contour of the side of the fuselage there. And there are some intermeshing teeth on the opposite sides here. You can see where they're going to want to connect, so we're just going to collapse these in like so on each side and push them together. And this is one of those figures that's definitely going to take some scrunching to get everything to push in together. So yeah, notice that there are some tab and slide connections here that aren't quite lined up. So it never hurts to inspect it and make sure you have everything kind of lined up and locked in. Yeah, same right here. Just make sure that piece is pushed in. So there are some certain Beast Box, Mega Box, Infinity Box figures that require some scrunching once you get them into their cube mode because there's so many interconnecting parts. Really sophisticated designs kind of require that. And one thing I'll say is these helicopter blades don't necessarily want to scrunch into their tabs or lock into position like they should. I mean, they fit within that groove, but they're just not locking in, at least on one side here. Alright, so that's your cube mode. Compacts up really nice, and this is an interesting one. So a lot of my complaints with more recent AMTS vehicles is that the figure basically has to get kicked out of his cockpit for the transformation. Not so in the case of Patagona. I was able to keep the figure in there, so I don't know why that's necessarily important to me. Maybe it means nothing to you, but I personally like being able to keep the figure with his vehicle. And it fits totally clean inside of its box charger. Very nice. Now it's time to give this awesome airlifter a box grade. This is my rating system to 6 categories at 5 points each for a total score of anything from 0 to 30 points. Patagona is an awesome looking tilt rotor helicopter. It has great textile and cues in the vein of a cutting-edge VTOL aircraft. Its color scheme is spot on for this type of vehicle, and it's overall an awesome release for the AMTS line. 5 out of 5. For features, at least my initial impressions and reaction from this unboxing video is that it's pretty much everything you'd hope for in an action vehicle and more, including its freely rotating and reconfigurable tilt rotors, opening cockpit complete with Hexanoid pilot, and even landing gear, and it transforms into multiple modes. There's a lot more under the hood that I haven't even touched on yet, and I'll hopefully be able to showcase that more sometime later this year. 5 out of 5. For transformation, well, it's not super complicated. I do think 5T Toys 4 out of 5 star difficulty is about accurate. It forms a fairly clean box mode, but it does require an extra bit of scrunching to make sure all the tabs are locked in. I did find that double joint on the sides to be pretty stubborn, to the point where I thought I might have broken it just to get it rotated into position, which is never reassuring when something like this has so many small moving parts. 3 out of 5. As a vehicle, like I said, Patagona has everything you could want out of a tilt rotor action vehicle. I initially wasn't sure if I could tilt its rotors correctly from vertical to flight positions, and I'm happy to report that it does so just about effortlessly. And of course, being an AMTS vehicle, there's so much more going on here. 5 out of 5. Along with Toxotes, Patagona is very well built, its helicopter blades are surprisingly solid, and overall it feels pretty sturdy. Again, I do have to knock it a bit for that double joint that snaps to the point where it feels like it's breaking during transformation, and the unusual amount of difficulty getting that side lined up to get the tab connected. 4 out of 5. AMTS Code 12 is really well done. Along with the inclusion of Hexanoid minifigures, 5-2 Toys has fully embraced this line as action set pieces. It has a ton of play value, and again, with multiple modes, I'm looking forward to seeing what else this thing can do. 5 out of 5. And that brings the box grade total to 27 out of 30 points. Along with Toxotes, the Rescue Team is the highest rated AMTS set that I've reviewed so far. So there's an in-depth look at the all-new 5-2 Toys Infinitybox rescue vehicle, Patagona. I've been looking forward to this one from the moment I saw the reveal of its prototype, and this vehicle is well worth the wait. I'm really not sure how many transforming VTOL aircraft action figures have ever been out on the market, if any. But if there have been, I feel like this one's gotta be the gold standard. I love it, and I may very well have this on display for a long time to come. But before I do, I still need to combine it with Toxotes to form the mighty robot Hercules, which again I hope to have a video showcase for that before too long. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this review. Leave me a like if you enjoyed it, and share this if you know someone who's interested in transforming robot combiners. AMTS sets are always really cool vehicle designs, and I can't wait to see what 5-2 Toys does next. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think the next set ought to be. There's still tons of possibilities. Thanks, I hope your year's off to a great start, and I'll catch you in the next one.